Hey guys, what's going on? Sherman here. And a reoccurring question I've been getting for the past few years now, from either just beginner knife collectors / users, or even veterans here to the community who have collected knives over the years, but possibly want to get into some more higher end knives or get into a different brand. And that question has been, in my opinion, what is a better knife for the money? The Spyderco Manix 2 or the Benchmade Griptilian? I think it's a good question. The reason I have not done a video as of yet, or until now I should say, is that because there are a lot of fanboys out there who get really offended that anytime you compare any knife to another knife, especially if they're opposing brands. But I'm going to keep this video very non-biased, and I'm just going to basically speak to the different attributes of each knife, because these knives are incredibly similar in price, function, materials, and design. So I think they're fair to compare against each other. But I want to say I love both of these knives, obviously, or I wouldn't own them. So I love both of these knives. They're both great, and I am going to interject my opinion here and there, but take it for what it's worth, which it's free, so take it for what it's worth, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just going to dig into this video. First, I'm going to start with the Manix 2. What do you get for your money with the Manix 2? Manix 2, this just stock bare bones model. You're not getting a sprint run. You're not getting the black DLC coated version. You're not getting the Stag Arms exclusive 154 or CPMS 30V steel blade, black coating with the green scales. Just a stock bare bones Manix, as you see here. It's around $75. Give or take a few dollars, but that's about what you're going to pay for it. So for $75, you're getting a stout knife, a 3-inch blade, American 154 cm steel. All this knife is constructed in America. Both of these knives are, so that's good. You get G10 handle scales, which is a very nice material, pretty coarse texturing. Spyderco's patented caged ball lock design, very, very strong lock, proven lock. Thick steel liners, which does contribute to a little bit of the weight, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So you know this knife is going to be very resilient. There is no give in the handle whatsoever. You have thick steel liners and then the very strong G10 material. Overall, it's a great knife. No doubt about that. You get a lot for your money with this knife. What do you get for your money with the Benchmade Griptilian? Benchmade Griptilian for a stock bare bones Griptilian with the black FRN scales. This model is the Tanto version, but at the time the Tanto model was the same price as the drop point. So Tanto drop point Griptilian with the thumb studs, without the Spyderco hole, without the black coated blade, everything like that. Just a stock standard Griptilian. It's around $85 to $90 in today's market, which when I got it, it was $75, so the same as the Manix. But today's market, it's about $10 to $15 more than the Spyderco Manix 2. What do you get for your money? The scales are just FRN. I believe Benchmade calls it GTX or something like that. But it's FRN, same as Spyderco uses. 154 cm steel blade, made in America here again. This one just happens to be partially serrated in the Tanto version. No liners. Let me get my flashlight. It does have partial liners down in there. You can see that part of the liner right there extends about 3/4 of the way through the handle and stops. But for the most part, the internals of the handle are skeletonized FRN. So no steel. These will flex, but it is a very resilient material. I've never had a problem with it. I've done a lot of work with this knife and never had an issue. So I don't really care, but you know, it is what it is. Here again, 3-inch blade. Compare it. Very, very similar. Almost identical. Looks like a little bit longer on the Griptilian. Plus you get a longer cutting surface with the Griptilian because the Spyderco Manix has the finger choil. So, and of course, you know, you have your patented axis lock. Very, very proven, well-designed knife. It's a great knife. Like I said, they're both great knives. Okay, here comes my opinion. You get more with the Spyderco Manix 2. What do I mean by that? If you want a strong, heavy-duty work knife, then I'm going to want a knife that has full steel liners. It's going to be very strong, that can withstand a lot of side-to-side movement, that's going to withstand me stepping on it possibly. It's just going to hold up and feel very stout in the hand. Both of these knives feel great in the hand, and as a lot of videos prove, the Benchmade Griptilian is very, very strong and well proven. No doubt about that. But I'm saying G10 is a much better material than this FRM. It's stronger, it is more tractionable. Plus, like I said, with the full steel liners, if you want a good strong knife, this is obviously going to be the better choice. So that's not really my opinion, that's a fact. You do get better materials, considering that the Manix 2 is about $10 to $15 cheaper than the standard Griptilian model. The standard 551, I believe. This is 553, but... So that's just partially my opinion and partially fact. Both knives come tip up, left, right hand only. Don't mind that at all. Like I said, they both have 154 cm steel blades. Who executes it better, in my opinion? I think they're both great. I've had excellent edge retention with both of these knives, so no problem there. Edge geometry, however, which this has been a topic of conversation on many videos. Benchmade's edge geometry is quite frankly awful. It has been for a few years now. They've just now started improving it with their Adamus model, or Adamus, however you want to pronounce it. So they are improving it slightly, but you can see it's a very, very steep grind. Flat ground, by the way. It's a nice looking blade though. I love the satin finish that Benchmade uses. But anyway, just a very steep grind, and this knife was nowhere near hair shaving sharp out of the box. Manix 2, you can see the light glinting off it. Partial flat grind, known as a slicer grind, I guess you could call it, which makes a very, very thin cutting edge, and the geometry is much better. You can see how they backed up that cutting bevel. So what does that mean? You're going to get a much, much more acute cutting edge with the Manix 2. This knife is going to perform and is going to outperform the Benchmade in terms of slicing capabilities, because just by fact this knife can get slightly sharper just because of the way the edge geometry is. And I know Jay Davis has done videos on this in the past, and he could probably speak better on this subject than I can, but this is just my opinion. But the edge, I like how Spyderco does it much better than I like how Benchmade does it. This can be improved upon. It's just very thick behind that cutting edge. So, in terms of slicing and how the edge comes from the factory, the Spyderco Manix beats the Benchmade Griptilian. This was absolutely beyond hair shaving sharp right out of the box. This could barely cut printing paper right out of the box. So, it's just the way it is. Maybe yours is different. I'm speaking to how mine was and how everyone I've ever handled was. Every Benchmade Griptilian I've ever handled was quite, not dull, but I would not say very sharp. So, Benchmade could really improve on their factory edges. But like I said, the 154 cms performs identically in my experience. Let's see. Handle materials, like I said, I prefer G10. Some people prefer the FRN. The Griptilian is definitely a much, much lighter knife. The Manix 2 coming in at around 4.8, I think, ounces, maybe 5.2. Benchmade Griptilian at around, I think, 3.4. So maybe 4 ounces, but you get a much, much lighter knife with the Griptilian. So if you are somebody who cares about weight in your EDC knives, then the Griptilian is going to be your choice. Here again, this kind of comes into the different applications. If you're going to be doing a lot of heavy work, I would probably recommend the Manix just because it's a little bit stronger design, handle-wise. And if you just want a lightweight EDC blade that can still handle a lot of heavy tasks, I'd go with the Griptilian. Now I do want to bring this up though, in terms going back to the edge. The fact that this is thicker behind the edge means it's going to be a utility edge, which means it's not going to be as an acute edge, which means you're not going to be able to do tasks, like cut tomatoes very well, or slice phone book paper. But you're going to be able to perform a lot of heavier tasks without damaging the edge. If you have a really, really thin edge, such as the one on the Manix 2, cutting things like plastic ties can put a lot of rolls in your edge and possibly even chips on a microscopic level, making the edge very toothy and causing it to not perform as well as it could. So thinner edges are not best for utility work, heavy utility work. That's why you don't see axes sharpened like this. You don't see axes with blade stock that thin. So axes are very, very thick behind the edge and are very dull. It's because they're meant to plow through wood, possibly rocks, whatever whatever you plan on chopping with your axe. So a thicker edge is better for utility work. It doesn't damage as easily. So that being said, here again, this kind of falls into the two different types of uses. Depends on which one you like more. Thinner edge, better for slicing, shaving hair. Just overall sharper, better slicing edge. Thicker edge, not going to be as sharp, possibly, but it's going to be able to cut heavier, more abrasive objects without damaging as quickly. So, leading to my next point, blade stock. Blade stock, it looks like the Manix is a little bit thicker, going down to that very, very acute tip. Looks like the Manix is just a little bit thicker. You can see though that the handles are very similar in terms of the jimping. Jimping right there, jimping here, jimping with the steel liners down here, jimping in the FRN scales here, jimping back here, jimping back here, here. The difference in the jimping is, however, is that the Spyderco Manix actually work. This jimping right here, pressing my thumb as hard as I can against it. Probably see the markings on my thumb right there from how hard I'm digging my thumb. You can see my nail turning white. Yeah, jimping works. The jimping on the bottom finger choil right here is just as sharp, and on the forward finger choil just as sharp. I honestly could really do without this jimping right here and down here. It's kind of annoying, kind of sharp when you really bear down this knife. It's kind of annoying. But if you're a fan of jimping or you're wearing gloves, and you're gonna like the Manix too. The jimping on the Griptilian, very, very, very smooth. The FRN jimping is actually sharper than the blade jimping. Not a fan of that at all. Handle thickness. The Manix 2 is a much slimmer design. It's going to feel better in the pocket, and I know that from experience. It's going to feel better carrying in the pocket than the Griptilian. But you can see though that the handle scales are just flat. They're just squared off. The handle design on the Griptilian is slightly contoured. You can see it has that slight radius. That offers, in my opinion, better ergonomics in the hand. You get a better knife in the hand. Here again, that's my opinion. It just feels better when you're wearing gloves and whatnot because it is slightly contoured to your palm as opposed to the Manix. Now the Manix, it also feels incredibly comfortable, but I'm just saying the Griptilian is a little bit more palm filling than the Manix. So if that's a deciding factor, something to think about. Now, I talk about the strength. No, I've never seen a Griptilian break. Never seen a Manix break. So, that's just me. So they're obviously both very strong. They're both very weather resistant. I've seen people put both of these knives in the ground for months, dig them back up. They work just fine. Now, finally, I think here's one of the deciding comparisons. Which is better, Spyderco caged ball lock or the Benchmade axis lock? Well, they both kind of work on the same principles, but with different mechanics, if that makes sense. The Benchmade Axis lock, you have a stainless steel pin, which locks into place over the tang of the blade. It's stainless steel barreled, like a little barrel, with two kind of U-shaped springs called Omega springs. One on either side of the locking mechanism. Like I said, they're kind of hook-shaped. They wrap around that little steel pin right there, and they have a tiny, tiny little peg that pegs into the inside of the liner right there. That's what keeps it in place. Kind of like if you've seen the insides of automatic knives, how the coil spring goes around the tang of the blade and then pins into a hole in the blade to keep it in place. Kind of works on the same principle. The springs are easy to depress. The knife has rock solid lockup, absolutely no up and down blade play, and I've had this knife for years. Done a lot of heavy cutting tasks with it. No up and down blade play whatsoever. So that's very good. This is a very, very well proven, simple lock. This knife is kind of like the AK of the knife world. It's just going to keep working. Spyderco cage ball lock works on almost the same principle. I don't know how easy it's going to be for you guys to see this, but down there you have a stainless steel ball bearing encapsulated in a piece of polymer. You can probably see it right there. The steel ball bearing, the tang is cut out like this. The steel ball bearing gets pushed into place so the tang can't move up or down. Kind of works in the same way as the Benchmade Axis lock, just a little bit different. Now, the spring used is a coil spring. Like X-Acto said in one of his videos in comparison of the two locks, you can't argue with how things work. A coil spring is a stronger, more durable design than two C-shaped springs, such as the Omega springs and the Benchmade Axis lock. And like I said, you just can't argue with how that works. Coil springs are much better at what they do. They're much better springs. This spring is going to last much longer and is going to offer a more solid lockup. Here again, you know, X-Acto said he's seen some Omega springs break. Some people said they've seen these springs break. It can happen. You know, I have seen some Benchmades fail with batoning. I've seen some Manixes fail with batoning. Neither of them are perfect. But this lock is much stronger. I mean, I don't know how many pounds of pull I'm creating on this lock, but the lock takes much, much more pressure to disengage than the Benchmade Axis lock. Which means this is going to result in harder lockup. That's going to result in harder lockup than the Axis lock. Like I said, I love them both. I cannot say which one is overall better. The Axis lock, it works very, very smooth. The blade glides open very smoothly. But the Manix is just a little bit smoother. Almost like glass. I have the pivot tightened down pretty hard though. But very, very smooth and very, very positive, strong lockup. Both locks are self-adjusting, so if one has blade play, if you work it long enough, it should work its way out. I've noticed that with both of these knives is that the lock self-adjusts and will lock into the tang further and further the more you use these knives. Like when I first got my Manix, it's hard to judge, but the lock was set to about right there, and then over time it settled there. So bare bones Manix 2, $75 just about. The Benchmade Griptilian, $551 or $553, about $85, $90. Both great knives. Cannot say which one is better. I do prefer the Manix over the Griptilian. That's my preference, but both knives are great, and I would highly recommend either in your collection. If possible, both. Try them both out. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope I didn't offend anybody with my opinions on either of these knives. Alright guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, stay sharp, and God bless. Sherman614. Peace.